How's it going, everybody? My name is Jeff King with XS Sights, and today we're going to be doing the installation video for the Minimalist Optics Ready sights, and then we're going to be mounting an RMR to our Glock MOS cut using our optics plate. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure the gun is safe and clear, and then we're going to take off the sights that are on it using our super nice installation tool. I'm sure we'll have a cut of that somewhere here so you guys can see it. It makes the job a lot simpler. And then we'll start installing everything. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do in this installation is the de-installation. That's always the first thing that we need to do. So we're gonna make sure this gun is clear and safe, no magazine, make sure everything, no bullets are in it. Go ahead and take the slide off. Take the spring out and the barrel. And then we just have the slide with the sights. So what we'll do from here is we're gonna remove the sights and then we'll install the sights. And then after we have all of the iron sights installed, we'll go back on, we'll put the plate on it and then mount the red dot. That way the red dot's not in the way. We're not pressing on that red dot a little bit weird and adding any extra force that doesn't need to be there. So we'll go ahead and put this slide in our de-installation tool. I want to make sure everything's lined up. I'm actually going to slide it off to the side of the table. That way we can use this a little bit more leverage getting it on there. Start feeling some pressure. And then we'll be able to actually push that rear sight right out of that dovetail. So this sight actually had some Loctite on there, some red Loctite, which I know a lot of people like, no, we don't need red Loctite. We can never get it off. But I'm here to tell you guys that if you put them on the right way and make sure everything's cleaned and you make sure that your parts are degreased before you put them on, which we'll go through, the red Loctite is not going to make them immovable sights. All it does is it absorbs that extra shock and make sure it's going to stay in place whenever you're reciprocating that slide over and over and over again. So now that rear sight is out, I'm going to back this pusher all the way over. Pop that out, and then we'll move on to the front sight. So the cool thing about our gunsmith tool is that this knob here is actually a front sight tool as well. So it makes everything super simple. It keeps everything into the same place. You can just throw it in your range bag. If you ever need to tighten down a screw or change sights for some reason, you can do that. So I'm going to uninstall this front sight that also had some Loctite on it. Just unscrew that, there's that screw. Then this front sight should, with a little bit of force, come off. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So I'm gonna put that screw back in there, that way we don't lose that. Just have an extra screw floating around, it's never good. Awesome. So now I'm gonna clean up my workspace a little bit, put all of my tools kind of off to the side, that way we can unbox the Minimalist sights, degrease them, and then also clean this slide up a bit, because you can see here that we have a little bit of red Loctite still on it. We want to make sure that's off of the slide whenever we go to install everything. That way everything's bonding and making a good contact with the rest of the parts. So I'll set these off to the side. What I'll do is I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to go through here, spray it down, clean it up a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna move these off to the side. We don't need these anymore. I'm gonna keep them in a spare bag. Now that the slide is de-Loctited as much as I'm gonna be able to get it, I'm gonna push this off to the side. Now we're gonna open up the Minimalist sights that come with the bundle. So inside, you'll have a few different things. We'll have a leave us a review card. Please leave us a review. It helps us out a lot. It also lets us know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. That way we can fix it for you guys. You'll have the features. Odds are this is how you found us, is via QR code to the instructions. You'll have some gun oil, some red Loctite, than the sights themselves. So the first thing I'm going to do with these sights is I'm actually going to degrease them. They do come with a little bit of grease. Like I was saying earlier, if you do not degrease these parts, the odds of them not bonding to the gun is much higher and will result in more failures. So we want to make sure that we degrease these as much as possible. Install them with the red Loctites, and then you can go back over it with some protective oils to make sure you're protecting it from the weather. So I'm going to grab this right now. Grab my gun cleaner. And I'm just going to spray these down, give them a wipe down, make sure there's no more grease on them. And then with the rear sights and the front sight, you just want to be cognizant of where the metal is going to be touching the slide. So I'm going to go in here with a pointy Q-tip, and I'm just going to clean up that dovetail cut a little bit. Make sure there's no degreaser or anything. Same thing here with that tab and that front screw. Just make sure there's no degreaser or oil on it. And then we're going to now degrease this slide. So same thing, just making sure you degrease where the sights are going to be touching the slide at, this dovetail, and then obviously this front cutout for the front sight. All right, so now that the slide is degreased, the dovetail and the front sight cutout is degreased to the point where we can start the installation. I'm going to do the rear sight first. That way we can get that pushed in, look to make sure that it looks even, and then whenever we go to install that front sight, we can make sure that front sight is even and not off one way or the other. So in reverse order of what we did to deinstall, I'm going to slide this into the tool, slide this tab up a little bit, that way I know it's going through that dovetail. I'm not going to hit that slide at all. Push that back. I'm going to scoot it to the edge of the table, that way I can work the threads a little bit better. And then now what we'll do is we'll take this rear sight. You can see that there's a lead-in edge on one of these. So it'll be installing from the right side if you're driving the gun. I'll go ahead and get that started into the dovetail. So now that we got that lead-in edge into the dovetail, I'm going to go ahead and push it forward using this sight pusher tool. Makes it super simple. Plus the tool itself is brass, the part that's pushing against that sight. So any marring can be removed so that sight looks nice and pretty and clean. So I'll just go, keep kind of cranking down on it until I see that it's about even. And then what I do is I back it out so I can move this tab off to the side. And I can kind of see the even spacing on both sides of the sights and of the frame of the slide. So I actually pushed it a little bit too far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it, flop it around, and then I'm going to push it back the other way, just a hair. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and remove the slide from the tool. We'll now take this front sight tool that we use as a crank down. The other great thing about our gunsmith sight tool is that the front sight tool itself is magnetic where it touches that front sight screw. So you're not going to lose that tiny little front sight screw, which is super frustrating. If anybody's ever dropped it, you freeze immediately and try to find it, which is near impossible. So now what we're going to do with this front sight is we're going to take our red Loctite that come in your kit. We're going to dab a decent amount on the face, the bottom face of the sight, where the sight itself will be touching the slide. Get some all the way around it. You can be generous with it. You can do a little bit more. We'll go through and do some cleanup afterwards. So I'll go ahead, put that on there, hold it on, and we'll also, I should have done this first, but you're going to want to put some of this red Loctite on the threads of the screw as well. And then from there, you're just screwing in the front screw into the sight. So be careful whenever you're screwing it in. You can kind of see whenever you're screwing it, the sight will want to turn a little bit, and that's perfectly common. You just want to be cognizant of it. That way you can fight it and make sure that that sight is going to be where you need it. Perfect. That looks pretty square. Let's tighten down to spec. Awesome. So now what I'm going to do with the rear sight, since we didn't put any Loctite on it in the installation, we're going to go back through with the red Loctite and we're going to touch all of the seams, almost like you're welding the sight to the frame. So I'll do that now. Perfect. And I'm going to let this sit for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to come back, clean it all up, and then we'll move on to installing the optics plate and the RMR. Now that it's been 15 minutes, I'm going to go through here with a pointy Q-tip. I'm just going to clean up all the seams. That way you make it look nice. If it looks good, it performs good. So I'm going to go through here and just clean up any of the excess, no pun intended, red Loctite from the slide. All right, now that everything is cleaned up with those, we're going to let these sit. We can install the RMR and the plate, but before firing, we suggest letting these sit Loctited for about 24 hours. That'll let the red Loctite cure fully and make sure that bond's really, really good. So what we'll do now is, now that the optics ready sights are on there, we'll go ahead and mount our optics plate and then mount the red dot. We're going to remove the factory screws from the factory cover. Your kit will come with a Torx bit, but I have a little screwdriver. Just makes things a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew these screws. We will not be reusing these, so you can go ahead and set these aside with the cover. Awesome. So same thing, guys, as the sights. We're going to want to degrease this. That way, whenever we put everything on it, we'll be good to go. And while we're degreasing the slide itself, we'll go ahead and degrease the optics plate and the screws that come with it. Your kit for the optics plate will come with blue Loctite. We recommend the red for the sights, but we do not recommend the red for the screws for the optics plate. And the reason being, it's a little bit easier to change. So if you guys do want to change optics or change plates or whatever you guys want to do with that cut, it allows it to be a little bit more friendly for you guys. All right, now that everything is degreased and we're good to go, we're going to take the blue Loctite that comes with your kit, and we're going to dab a couple times on the rear of the plate. We're going to dab twice on the front of the plate. And then what we'll do is actually there's a little ridge right here that'll run in the middle of the plate. We're going to dab that twice as well. One in front of the screws and then one behind the screws. That way we're ensuring a nice solid lock to the gun itself. So once that optics plate is on there, we'll get ready to screw it down. We're going to put some Threadlocker on the screws as well. Just a drop on each of those. Get that in there, started. Same thing, just one drop on that. Get it started. We'll go ahead and screw these down. And these get screwed down to about 6 to 8 inch-pounds of torque. If you guys don't have a torque wrench, then just hand tight and a little bit more. Awesome. So now that those are screwed down and good to go, same thing with the red Loctite. We're going to let it sit for about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back through, clean it up, and then we'll put that red dot on. So now that it's been about 15 minutes, we're going to go through, clean everything up. It allowed it to cure a little bit, but not too much to the point where you can't just kind of wipe it off. The way it still looks nice, and you're not having all that excessive Loctite all over the place. Perfect. So now with this plate, this is an RMR footprint plate. Like you guys know, you guys are the ones that purchased it. So I got my RMR here, I got my battery, the screws for the RMR. Same thing, I'm gonna actually pop those out, the screws for the RMR, because I'm gonna put some blue Loctite on those. Go ahead, put my battery in the dot, mount that on there. Everything seems to be working, forming functionally. So now I'm going to put some blue Loctite on my screws and screw it down to the red dot specifications. So I'll show you guys once we get this screwed down, but this has been a kind of an awesome project to work on and something that's been a long time coming for us, and we're super excited to share it with you guys. The development of this is to ensure that you guys have the perfect window whenever you guys go to shoot, but also give you that perfect backup that's not going to be in there clogging up that window. So these actually get into that kind of that lower 8th to lower 5th co-witness should you guys need it, but it's not going to distract your eyes or anything like that whenever you're actually shooting. This is the blacked out rear, or the blacked out front. We also have one with the tritium front. The installation is the same. And same thing with the red Loctite and the blue Loctite. We're gonna let this sit for 24 hours before we take it out and go shoot it. You can put it on your gun, keep it in the safe, but just let it sit for 24 hours before you guys take it out and just start throwing rounds downrange. After 24 hours, you guys can go ahead and put some gun oil on it, get some protective coating on there. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble my gun and then kind of let it sit to the side for 24 hours, and then I'm going to take it to the range. Thanks for watching the video. At XS Sights, it's our mission to empower the good guy to be more prepared, self-reliant, and confident with functional weapon upgrades. As a family-owned company since 1996, our mantra has always been American-made, Texas proud, 2A strong. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you in the next one.